Hi everybody, I've been away for a little while and I'm sure some of you know that I've had a bit of an accident, so that's one reason why I'm sitting down tonight. I am mobile once more, in more ways than one. I have a new car and I can walk, so that's got to be good. Anyway, I thought it was high time that I brought back Poetry Sandwich. So I'm going to start by reading you a poem, as usual, and then the sandwich filling is a piece of fiction, which will be a continuation of the story, The Invisible Dance, which I've started reading. It isn't complete, and obviously when we get to the point where I have to stop reading, I will have to stop reading, that's and work on it. But at the moment I have a very large project ongoing. So anyway, not too large for me to write a couple of new poems, which I'd like to share with you tonight. So this is I Am the Tsunami, which I've been thinking about for a long time, and I've hadn't managed to do anything more with it, but here it is. I am the tsunami. I am the flame to your smoke. I am the stratovolcano to your fissure eruption. I am the deep focus earthquake to your surface tremor. I am the tsunami to your surf wave. I am the flood to your rolling river, the delta to your braided stream. I am the glacier to your iceberg, the lightning to your thunder, the hailstorm to your rain, and the tornado to your anticyclone, the hurricane to your windstorm. I am the blizzard to your snowstorm. I am the aurora borealis. I am a force of nature. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed that. And I would now like to continue with a reading from The Invisible Dance. We're up to chapter 4. There are 7 chapters completed. It has been a while since I read any of this due to my accident and the pandemic and so on. So here's a brief update. Noreen Campbell has left her job on Earth, where her boss Simon sexually harassed her, and has arrived at a new job on Akakara, a planet where the 9 tribes are kept in reasonable harmony by their leader, the Perhuai. On arrival on the planet, Noreen was ill with a bug, but she was met by Gua Chi-Orm, an ex-soldier assigned to look after her safety and get her to her job at Road Plan, a company formed to build a road linking all areas of the planet. And they've just left Langland City and are on the Prairie Lands, occupied by a tribe called the Gerim Ha. Bai must keep hold of Noreen to keep her hidden from the Gerim Ha, who are searching for them. So this is where they go onto the Prairie Lands. All the pages are stuck together. Right. Bai kept his grip on Noreen as he pulled her along behind him. A couple of times she stumbled over the rough ground and would have fallen but for his support, but she kept up with him fairly well. Ahead, the Prairie Lands was studded with spots of colour as flowering plants threaded through the grasses on either side of the track. To their left, a colony of taller grasses offered cover. Bai headed towards them just as the fruit farm lorry swung past them. He took advantage of its passage to dive through the grasses in what would have been a very respectable rugby-style tackle had he still been in the team on Sal's World. Noreen landed behind him on one side. "You didn't tell me you were going to imitate a parasender," she grumbled and rubbed her elbow and hip. "Sorry, no chance. I needed to get us into this cover, but if we'd walked through the longer grasses to get here, the Gerimha would have seen our feet flat on the grass. Are you okay?" "I'll live." "Thought you would." He turned to scan the blockade again as groups of tribespeople walked through the gate. The lorry was kicking up dust further down the track. Of the 3 men who'd been veiled by illusion, there was no sign. The taller grasses would provide an effective screen as the track meandered away from them after which it wouldn't matter so much and they could move more freely. He drew another arrow on her forearm with his finger and pointed left. My territory lies 4 days' walk over there. What about the road? We can't use it. We have to go in a different direction anyway. Let's go, and quietly. He set off at a brisk trot. Noreen followed and did her best to keep up. The plains were flatter away from the road, where heavy vehicles had chewed up mud whenever it rained, and they made good progress for some while until Noreen had to draw breath in gasps. Do you need to rest? He asked, his voice little more than a whisper. Yes, you've done well. I am used to keeping moving, she retorted. How long can we stop for? 5 minutes, then we move on. I'm a bit concerned. Did you see that group of Gerim-Ha? Were they Gerim-Ha? She asked. I thought they might be, because whenever I tried to look harder at them, I couldn't seem to focus on them any better. Well spotted. But I squatted down amongst the longer grasses, and Noreen had perforce to copy him. Keep low. I'm sure they had some kind of tracker device. Whatever, they don't seem to have come through the gate, and I'm sure it's not because they changed their minds. What does that mean? That maybe they never intended to pass through, just keep a track on our whereabouts? So I'm not sure whether or not we're safe here. The illusion, would it work on a machine? Of course not, Bai snorted. Even if the guards couldn't see what it was, the weapons scanners would spot it straight away. So perhaps they knew they wouldn't get it through and kept it within the city. He drew in a deep breath as he considered this. It might be even more useful there. He thought for a moment, then added, now listen, we can talk here, but we both need to stay invisible, so keep hold. The savannah surrounded them in every direction, flat, uncompromising, severe, yet beautiful. Noreen counted at least 24 different species of grass within arm's length, interspersed with wildflowers of every colour. In the distance, purple mountains jutted out of the ground at angles that took her breath away, poised forever in the act of sinking back into the ground and taking the sunset with them as they slid into oblivion. They'd walked for hours, and the going wasn't easy. Although the ground was fairly level, the tall grasses swung back against their limbs as they walked through it, often slicing skin or catching hair. Noreen was glad of the protection of her genes despite the heat. Although the prairie land was pretty, insects were everywhere and didn't fail to investigate human flesh. She was hot and sweaty besides, and she'd long since stopped the wish that she'd remembered to bring her sunglasses. Bai would probably have told me they were the wrong colour for the vibrations, she thought. Bai took her hand and waved it in the direction of an outcrop of reddish rock ahead. There, we'll rest and eat. It looked cooler among the rocks. Noreen quickened her steps at the hope of cool water on her heated skin, then remembered the red body paint and realised Bai wouldn't let her wash, even if water was there. Not far now. Step. The grasses swished against her knees. Step. About another 100 metres. Step, step. Bai led Noreen between the jumble of juxtaposed sandstone blocks, then let go of her hand and shimmered into view in the heat haze that lay over the savannah. At the same moment, Noreen saw her own body flicker back into visibility. She let out a deep sigh at the sight of her hands. Then her pride reasserted itself, and to distract Bai from any idea that she was unnerved by her excursion into invisibility, she observed, there's good shelter there. Yes, I planned for us to stay the night here. Wait. He stepped forwards into the cleft between blocks that teetered as if about to fall. He lifted his head and turned it this way and that, as if either to listen or to sniff. What are you doing, Bai? Checking to make sure we're alone. If the Gerim-Ha got here before us, well, we're on their land and only your employers know you're here. And if they find me, would they hurt us? Oh, yes, especially me. He turned back to face her and his face was serious, most assuredly. I thought you would have checked this outcrop before you brought me into it. I did, but I want to check again. It's harder to pick up information when I'm invisible. I could still hear and see okay. So could I, but did you notice that everything sounded a bit distant? That's because the vibrations set up a barrier to the physical senses, something to do with the wavelength of the vibrations. He sniffed again. No Gerim Ha. That's good. Let's eat. I'm starving. Noreen took off her backpack and enjoyed the respite from the sun. Do they smell or something? They smell different from us. Do I smell different from your people? He inclined his head in a half nod of agreement. Of course, but you smell, well, nice. Except when I arrived and I'd been ill, huh? He pursed his lips, not quite a smile, but she could see he was amused. Can you eat human food, Vi? Pretty well, though some meats and dairy foods don't agree with me, and some vegetables and fruit taste a bit strange. I can eat bread if nothing else is handy, but our own breads are more digestible. Is that because of the different types of minerals in the ground or what? I guess it could be. I did my military training on Salzwell, though, so I got used to a lot of human foods. I really enjoy what you'd call a Mediterranean diet. Noreen tried to recall anything at all about Saul's world so that she wouldn't sound too ignorant and failed utterly. Do you want some of this melon? Sure, watermelon's great for this terrain. He drew a long knife out of his backpack and cut a couple of wedges from the fruit and carefully rewrapped it. Here. She accepted a wedge and crunched on it gratefully. It tasted wonderful. You can eat melon seeds as a cure for tapeworm, she said. Is that so? He chewed the last strip of fruit off the rind. I was so thirsty. He sat and considered her for a moment. Then he looked amused as he said, you'll need to retouch your makeup after that. Noreen tossed her hair. Can I help if it's really juicy? There's a bit of the clay left for touch-ups, he murmured. We can't cook here. The smoke would betray us, but we can have sandwiches. There's ham and cheese. Which do you prefer? As they finished eating, Noreen realised the sunset brought a chill to the plains. She shivered. I wish we could have a nice hot coffee, she said. You can. I have self-heating coffee crystals. Here. Put crystals into a plastic mug, then added cold water. The chemical reaction was instantaneous. Milk? I'm not ready to digest that yet after that bug, but I'll have a sugar for the energy. She sipped at the hot liquid, then shivered again. I'll have to put on a sweatshirt. The rock strikes cold through your clothes after the sun goes down, he agreed. I'll have to put something warmer on too. Those amazing mountains, the purple ones in the distance. Yes, they're naps. What's a nap? It's when rock gets folded very tightly and tipped over on its side. There's been major tectonic activity in this area in the past. What does that mean? When mountains are formed, it's the result of crustal shortening, for example, by continental collision. As the crust shortens, it folds up like the wrinkles on the skin of the rice pudding. Nice analogy. But what makes the mountains fall over like that? Noreen shrugged. The crust gets squeezed up so much that the rocks fold over into a Z shape and their weight tips them over. Sometimes you get a mid-ocean ridge magma chamber sliced up and thrust onto the land. The slices are stacked up against one another like a pack of cards. But I don't think that's what's happened here. I need more evidence before I can say what did happen, though. I suppose you'll want to see them at closer quarters. Right now, I'd settled for doing that later and getting a shower and a warm bed instead. How far do we need to travel for that? 3 more days. I want to cross an area not too far from the naps. It's a short cut, but a difficult area to cross because the landscape's all jumbled up. It might be lava blocks. It's nasty stuff if you cut yourself on it, and very sharp, so people often do, but the Gerim Ha won't follow us across it into my territory. Noreen grimaced. Lava can be dangerous if you get it in cuts, and it can rip your boots to pieces. What direction does this place lie in? I stood up and waved an arm towards the faint glow of that was the only reminder of sunset, sunlight and warmth. We just followed the sunset eastwards. East? At home, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. It does on Sal's world. Sorry, I forgot. It's all different here for you. For a moment, Loreen felt a flash of resentment. Here's an alien tribesman from a low-tech backwater who feels sorry for me because I haven't travelled as much as he has, yet I'm from one of the more advanced planets. Then she chided herself with the thought. Without Bai's help, she'd probably have been dead by now. She thought of the Gerimhar Duran and his shopping bag and shuddered. Easy, kid. It's my guess you're feeling a bit of culture shock. Don't worry, it'll get more familiar with time. I'm not sure I want any further acquaintance with the Gerimhar. She hesitated. I was really worried about you, you know. Yeah, off-worlders often can't get their heads around the political situation here. Are you going to fill me in some more on that? All I know right now is that there are 9 tribes, the Chiom and the Gerimhar are 2 of them, and they're at war. That's close. Well, I need to know about the other 7, especially if I'm going to be mapping and surveying for the best route for this road. I suppose you do. Well, the Gerimhar inhabit these hot savanna lands, and my people live in the desert lands. And in between our territories, the Baki work mines in the mountain range you saw in the distance. They're damned good fighters too. That's only 3 tribes, and I knew about 2 of them anyway. Be patient. I'm trying to explain to you the geographical relationships as I go. Oh yes, I've just remembered. At my interview, they told me this planet had one huge continent, what we'd call a supercontinent on Earth. Correct. It stretches more or less from one pole to the other. In the far north, the Mandika live in the tundra. They have a huge city carved out of ice. Between them and the Gerimhar, there are steppe lands where the Lerimor live. They hate the Gerimhar like poison and make regular raids on them. They take them as slaves and rape the women. He reached into his rucksack and pulled out 2 sweatshirts in the usual red colour. Not that I can understand why anyone would want to, but I suppose they'd do the same to us if it weren't for the mountain barrier. The same one where the miners live. The guy tipped back his head and laughed softly. Don't let a Baki hear you describe his people as miners. Well, that's all you told me about them. Would they be offended? You could put it like that. They pride themselves on their fighting skills as well, and we have a tripart alliance with them and the Mafar. Just as well, they're definitely a force to be reckoned with. Our relationship is built on mutual respect. Here. She took the sweatshirt he offered her. Same old colour. And who are the Mafar? They live in the rainforest to the south of our territory. South of that, there's another mountain range with lots of volcanoes separating the Mafar from a huge desert and briny lakes. Then there are the Vanani in the far southern temperate forests. And the other 2 tribes? Ah, so you can count. He turned as if he listened for something, then subsided back into his former half squat. Their contribution to planetary politics is somewhat minimal, since one lives mostly in the water and the other inhabits the range of islands out in the oceans. But the Perhuai still includes them in his household guard and all the initiatives he's set in place. He pulled on his own sweatshirt. Who is he exactly? You keep talking about him, and it's clear to me that you have a lot of respect for him, but what exactly does he do? Bai settled himself back against the sandstone block. The Perhuai is the reason we're here now, he said. Without him, the tribes would fight all the time, except perhaps for the Baki, the Mafar, and my people. Our alliance has held for 1,000 years, which is why it continues. We have been strong together. But the Perhuai? To be continued. And we're still on chapter 4. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed that as well. And if you've been watching the other streams that I've done, you will realise that it runs through in sequence. So as I say, I can go up to chapter 7, but not any further than that at present. But The Invisible Dance is the book that I'm going to finish and publish after I finish my next 2 books, which are the Zardoth Imperative, Discovery, and Clanship. Okie doke. And now on to the poem, the second poem, the last item tonight. And it's called Coffee. And I wrote it after I'd been in hospital. Okay. I'll sit up and drink my coffee, I think, but it's easier said than done. It's harder to move without hurting myself than it is to take life at a run. 3 breaks in 4 years and hundreds of tears. Life won't be the same again. A splint is the answer that lets me run faster for a girl with a break in her leg. I don't want to think of the future, I said. It doesn't seem that secure. If I've broken this now, and I don't quite know how, there might not be a cure. I could do it again. And we never know when there's an accident waiting to happen. A cast is the best thing. It's so worth considering for a girl with a break in her leg. I took those great pills to take care of my spills, but they didn't suit my system. I waited for breakfast, hopeful and steadfast. They gave me indigestion. We'll bypass your tum and infusions to come. Wear a mask to escape the pandemic. Have this Celidronic. What a fabulous tonic for a girl with a break in her leg. So I had the infusions, but they gave me contusions. I wondered just what would come next. They gave me more meds in a box with instructions. I sat up and read the text. You've osteoporosis. Here's heparin for thrombosis. If a brace does the work, it'll cease to irk. To bend, twist a button. It's the ideal solution for a girl with a break in her leg. I like to wear fashions exposing my passions, jeans, fun fur waistcoats and neck chains, I said. I hope they bury me in my best gear on the day that I join the dead. But until that day, I'll be on my way with a solution from science fiction. I'll wear my prescription and exosuit's the prediction for a girl with a break in her leg. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed that. I actually took that to the hospital onto a couple of my appointments and read it to people in the plaster room. They enjoyed it. And I read it to one of the consultants that I saw a little bit later on. He was the one who told me I could start walking again. And he thought it was good as well. So yeah, I feel I did a reasonable job, at least. I think there's 1 or 2 things that probably aren't quite accurate, but you're a bit blurry when you've had an an anaesthetic. The word retrieval's up the spout tonight, obviously. Okay, so I've been doing a little experiment with this. So I'm live streaming from Zoom directly to Facebook. So I'm hoping this is going to turn out all right. And if not, I've also got a recording of it. So I will post it on YouTube, and I'll send out the links and everything as well, probably embed it. So thank you very much for anybody who sees this, for taking the time to listen, and hopefully you'll have enjoyed it. And I've enjoyed being back. It's great. So cheerio for now, and don't forget to watch Fiction Fix Online, which should be streamed to the Finger on the Pulse on Sunday if we can get it to work properly. And if not, we will post the video in the Finger on the Pulse like we normally do, and up on YouTube as well. Okay, thank you so much, and I hope to see you soon. Bye. Right, now. Yes. Oh, no.